bull market is ahead, alt season, everyone is expecting crazy multipliers. But which altcoins are most likely not to provide multipliers? In this video, we will talk in detail about the Ethereum ecosystem and how to outplay it using beta bets on Ethereum, the growth of the Ethereum ecosystem, how to make it profitable, and what common new errors people make when selecting altcoins. First, let's examine the problem. We have several main projects that 90% of crypto enthusiasts are familiar with, even those who are only slightly involved in the market. This includes Arbitrum, which distributed a generous airdrop. There's Optimism, which also distributed airdrops, and in addition, it has sponsorship programs. And there's LDO Finance, which is also well known simply because it's a hyped project that provides liquid staking for Ethereum. And essentially, what is our problem? We have several important and significant projects that are heavily focused on by the market. These projects are being promoted by almost the entire CIS space, and many foreign bloggers are promoting them as well. And the question arises, if everyone already knows about them, then on whose account? This is not the only reason why I decided to remove these tokens from the portfolio. Let's move on to directly analyzing them and break down each one in detail. Yes, by the way, friends, before we proceed with the analysis, I remind you to trade cryptocurrencies on verified and reliable exchanges. I've been trading on the Bybit exchange for 3 years, and I recommend it to you. The link is below this video. Register and claim bonuses up to $30,000 for deposit and trading volume. All links and conditions for obtaining are under this video. So, let's start with Arbitrum. Why start with it? Because it is one of the most hyped projects. We won't be delving into specific technical solutions here, like how Arbitrum differs from Optimism or LDO. But LDO is a bit different after all. That is, it's specifically a solution for liquid staking of Ethereum, so we won't be getting into technical details here. We will be discussing the distribution of these tokens. We will be talking about how likely it is for these tokens to pump. And there's a very important disclaimer here, gentlemen. Look, a bull market, it's not always about bullish logic. The market is sometimes just about certain market manipulations. And obviously, we can't know all the market manipulations unless we are the head of a market maker like Binance, for example, which in my opinion conducts most of these manipulations.
What a twist!
In this context here, we can only attempt to predict, analyze, and evaluate and correlate various facts that potentially suggest whether a pump is more likely to happen or not. Here we are interested in the possibility of making a profit. We approach crypto wisely and understand that a bull market, alt season, multipliers, and bubbles are inflating. And if we enter early in this bubble, then we have a chance to make a profit. And here we are focused on profit, not about analyzing technologies. So let's be honest here and talk. Let's get into these things and figure out the issue with the arbitrator, see what the problem with the arbitrator is. In my opinion, the first problem is that too many tokens were distributed during the drop. That is, if you've been in the market for a while, you remember that this was one of the most generous drops. There, literally with just a few simple clicks in the arbitrator, they were giving away several $1,000s, and many people indeed took advantage of it. Consequently, many tokens immediately ended up in the market from the droppers of the token. This is where they took it. Everyone got scared, and we had the first wave of a pump. In 2024, when Bitcoin shot up from $40,000 to $70,000, at that moment, the arbitrator also performed well. But then, what we see is that it was rolled down by 80%. As a rule, if tokens are rolled down so harshly and if they don't have a good market maker to buy them back and keep them at interesting levels, well, let me show you what I mean. In fact, they were significantly affected. For example, let's take a look at the chart of the NAR project. Essentially, the same thing. The pump started from 2023 and lasted until March. This movement of Bitcoin was roughly from 25,000 to 70. That is, the project grew further, and we also see that the project was rolled down by over 50%. But the important point is that it did not go on to update its previous lows, and the market maker held it very nicely. That is, it was visible on the chart that someone was interested in this project, someone was buying up these tokens. As for Arbitrum, if we look at it, it seems that the market maker was simply absent, and essentially all the tokens that entered the market were calmly dumped through the order book, and the price continued to pour downwards. And looking a little ahead regarding Optimism, so as not to repeat later, approximately the same thing happened with Optimism. That is, this hype with the price surge to $5 in March 2024 and accordingly the subsequent rolling down of the price, just a dump through the order book, as if there was no sensible market maker present to support this price. Therefore, the charts of the projects look, to put it mildly, not so great. And if you are sitting hoping that it will reach its peak with Arbitrum at $2, Optimism at $5, and are focusing on these figures, I have a previous video on which alts I removed from my portfolio, which alts, more precisely, are not worth it right now. Link in suggestions where I discussed in more detail the concept of a token. We will also need to focus on this now. Look, here's basically the story with Arbitrum and Optimism right now. Right now, there are quite significant unlocks happening which can be seen on the timeline or on the chart. So we see that every month we have new tokens appearing in the market from funds, early investors, and so on. And this puts quite significant pressure on the order book. Yes, so we understand that these tokens, judging by the chart, again, they were released here. Both individuals, HEs and funds, were dumping them into the market. We observe more or less the same thing with optimism as an example. Here, however, the tokenomics is a bit murkier. Not all data is available, yes, so it's clear that some tokens are not tracked at all. But again, we see that there is a constant influx of new tokens into the market. And now we can confidently say that these tokens, apparently, are simply being sold off, as people have no interest in holding on to them. And the most interesting, the most important thing, in my opinion, as I showed you on the chart, again, these are similar charts of optimism, Arbitrum. We see that there is simply no interested party here who would accumulate these tokens. Yes, there was a small phase that was generally part of the overall market accumulation. And to say that there is some interested market maker here, yes, as we discussed, for example, with Neri, well, for now, you can refer to some other project. You can look at how the SU chart behaved. And for example, it also performed very well. And here, we can say, damn, well, it was the same thing. So the project was dumped, and then accordingly, it skyrocketed. Up there, you have the case of SU, and it's also a wonderful project that I also hold in my portfolio. But look at how well the SUI market maker has played out this story now. So just go, for example, to the social networks of the same SUI and see how actively they are promoting their blockchain right now, unlike Arbitrum and Optimism, which, to be honest, it's unclear what they are doing. Yes, they have some activity, but it's really about nothing. And if we once again open the vesting charts, that is, the charts of how tokens are unlocked for funds, it becomes quite obvious here. And let's say a few words about LDO Finance. The point here is that the tokenomics here are, of course, quite welcoming. That is, we see that most of the tokens are already in the market, and the capitalization with FDV more or less matches. Again, we discussed these terms in more detail in the video about projects that are not worth buying, link in the suggestions. As for LDO, the story here is that I get the feeling this token has simply played itself out. That is the same as with Arbitrum and Optimism. You look at the chart, and for now you don't feel like buying into this story. Yes, there are some volumes here. Yes, you could say it's a bet on liquid staking on Ethereum. If large institutional investors come here now, they will use this service. Yes, all of this is possible. All of this is possible. But honestly, I don't understand for what purposes exactly the LDO token itself will be used. So I don't have an understanding yet of what purposes. Yes, it has some use there, but again, for it to show now, there are 3, 4, 5 times, and that's just the number of times we typically expect from altcoins. Well, I don't see any particular fundamental reason for this here. And another very important point, if we look at the market capitalization of Optimism right now, it's ranked 50th on CoinMarketCap. 3 billion in market capitalization, billions in FDV. Next, accordingly, Arbitrum, approximately the same. 40th place, 39th by market cap, 4 billion market cap, 10 billion FDV. The situation with LDO is better. It's ranked 68th. And accordingly, its market capitalization is $2 billion and FDV billion. Why am I not very keen on taking projects without any practical application, especially when, in my opinion, they currently have no practical application with such a high valuation, because they will no longer benefit from the low base effect. They already have a rather inflated capitalization, and for them to grow further with each new dollar for every new 100%, the market maker needs to put in a considerable amount of effort. Why should he waste time? Why should he promote these projects where funds are tied up, where there are unlocks, where there is initially high capitalization, and which lack a clear, understandable, logical application?
I don't know what the f you just said, little kid.
When he can take other projects that don't have such a large number of tokens in the market, which are much easier to pump, and projects that, once again, don't have such a large amount of attention, most importantly, from the market. Because this is, in my opinion, one of the most negative factors, specifically from the perspective of these altcoins, is that they simply have a very large amount of market attention. People talked about them throughout the bear market. Everyone was waiting for their pump, and many accordingly got trapped there. And now as these projects grow, people will be exiting and dumping essentially again through the order book. Well, okay, let's say Arbitrum, Optimism, LDO. Tokens are not that great. What to do next? Now we will delve into this with you in detail. So what did I exchange the projects discussed above for, and which tokens will I be betting on? The first project we will be discussing today is the Mantle token. Similarly, we open CryptoRank and essentially look at what Mantle is. It is an optimistic rollup built on Ethereum technology based on the Eigen layer. But you might say, isn't it like Arbitrum or Optimism? There is one small, very important difference here. Do you know what it is? It's that the Mantle token is not officially an exchange token of the Bybit exchange, but it has a fairly strong connection with it. Let me remind you, if you don't have an account on Bybit, create one via the link below and claim up to $30,000 in bonuses. Importantly, even if you already have an account, contact support to transfer your account and claim bonuses. So, even though Mantle is not an exchange token, for the Bybit exchange, it has quite practical applications. First, it can be used in launch pools on the Bybit exchange, and people accordingly buy this token for that purpose. This creates some demand for it. Furthermore, if we go to the Mantle website, you can also stake tokens in Mantle Reward. And for this, you will receive rewards in those tokens that essentially will be listed on this platform. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say not listed, but distributed through this platform. Next, if we are simply talking about the Mantle chart, look at how well it is performing. Again, let's analyze the previous bull run, the pre-bull run. Yes, this is January, February at the beginning of 2024. There was growth, okay, 150% was achieved, then the token was dumped and it fell down along with the entire market. And I would like to point out that now it is almost rewriting its highs, which it had precisely at the beginning of 2024. So this, again, by indirect criteria, tells us that now the token is doing well. Its chart looks quite optimistic. People are buying this token. People are staking this token on the platform. People are staking this token on Bybit. And another advantage of holding this token is that if you hold it, just use it in the launch pools on the Bybit exchange. If you don't know what a launch pool is, we'll leave a video in the suggestions. 5 ways to earn risk-free on Bybit. Basically, you stake it and additionally receive rewards for it, besides the fact that the token itself is growing. That is, I moved part of my optimism arbitrage in LDO, specifically into Manpu. The next project as a beta bet on the Ethereum ecosystem, but which in my opinion is much more attractive than Arbitrum Optimism, Scroll. Scroll is an EVM-compatible ZK rollup, blah blah blah, created with the aim of scaling Ethereum. If you open any description of these L2 networks, it will say more or less the same thing. So you don't need to worry too much about it. That's why I don't want to delve into the nuances here about how they differ. I mean, it's all about networks for Ethereum scalability. So what do I like about Scroll? Look, first of all, the low base effect. It's ranked 350th. In terms of market capitalization, that is, the current market capitalization is 220 million and FDV now is 1 million. That is, it's several times, to be more precise, almost 10 times less than Arbitrum and Optimism. What does this tell us? Exactly that it will be much easier to pump the next point in terms of vesting and distribution token. Let's open it up. And what do we see here? Yes, there are already small unlocks happening. Yes, we see that some funds, for example, Scroll ecosystem tokens, are also starting to enter the market through Scroll Foundation. However, many tokens are still in the lockup stage. If we open the chart, we see that the majority of tokens will only start entering the market at the end of 2025. What is this all about? What does it indicate? When tokens enter the market, many investors avoid waiting out the bull market in these tokens. Especially if they are already at a profit, what do? Exactly, they simply enter and dump through the order book or sell gradually through a market maker, but the essence remains the same. They simply sell them and in doing so, push the price down. If we do not yet have a large number of tokens in the market, or if our tokens in the market belong only to a narrow circle of people, as in this case, yes, we see that here it is the DAO of Scroll, which is some ecosystem accordingly of Scroll. Yes, there may be some people who want to exit and also dump the price, but again, purely based on the chart, we see a much more organic picture here for this project to truly show there.
Nice.
If Arbitrum currently gives us 5 times growth, then its FDV would be around $50 billion, which is hard to believe. Actually, if Scroll gives 5 times growth, then its FDV is only $5 billion, which still doesn't reach Arbitrum's current values. And there are some other interesting aspects related to the Scroll project. There are rumors on Twitter that it is connected with Mr. Trump's DeFi ecosystem, this World Liberty. They are supposedly in contact with Scroll and use it for their projects. Well, let's say right away, it's definitely challenging to say definitively whether this is true or not, but if it is, Scroll indeed has a chance to achieve around 10 times growth. And the last project, we are discussing with you today is the Ethereum name server. It is slightly different from the previous two. It is a distributed open scalable naming system based on the Ethereum blockchain. In short, if simplified, it's a domain system on the Ethereum blockchain. Again, you can go there, read and Google it. Here's what to know on the Ethereum name server. Why do I like it? Well, first of all, again, take a look at this wonderful chart. Yes, we had some minor pumps in the middle of this year. Yes, it was growing even when the entire market was falling. It grew well on the pre-bull run at the beginning of 2024. And accordingly, it showed a very good movement, about 200% from its lows in November 2024. Surely you have the question, well, how do you buy a project that has already given 2x and is now trading at $43? Well, maybe not at all. Perhaps you need to wait until it approaches somewhere here in the correction zone at 30. As you can see, just a week ago, there was a correction where you could have bought it. My average point for ENS is around 15, meaning I bought it quite a while ago. Currently, I'm not buying more, but I decided to share this project, to share it with you as well. What is the advantage of ENS? ENS is one of the few projects openly supported by Vitalik Buterin. I think you know that he is the creator of Ethereum itself, and this gives the project a very powerful, let's say, social boost. Yes, it also has some issues in terms of vesting. And yes, there is also considerable pressure from new tokens entering the market. But we can see from the chart that even if there is this pressure, it is at least very actively being bought up by the market maker, and no one is planning to dump this token for now. If you rewind it a bit further, its past highs were around the 80 mark, but I wouldn't particularly focus on them now, meaning my targets for ENS, this is approximately $70–80, simply because its market capitalization is already quite significant, meaning you can see the FTV yourself. The capitalization, and drawing more here. From the bottom, I think it will be quite difficult to reach 80, so around 4 to 5x is a quite realistic figure. And gentlemen, an important point. Everything that happens in a bull market, it doesn't always adhere to common sense, reasonable forecasting, and so on. It's incredible that just because, for example, Genesis is very closely associated with Buterin or some other influential figures, it can potentially achieve 5, 10, 20x from the current state. And if Vitalik starts criticizing something like Arbitrum, it could sink even further. Therefore, you just need to choose interesting projects for yourself. I have named the projects that interest me. That is, Mental, Scroll. Accordingly, I have bought and am buying a little. I am not buying ENS at the moment. I also have buy orders for Scroll in case of a dip. And I am also making small purchases at current prices. Regarding the projects we discussed at the beginning, Arbitrum, Optimism, LDO, I have a small portion left there, but I plan to gradually get rid of them. That is, if they show some growth now, I will remove them from the portfolio and in fact allocate to other projects. Why? I have already explained to you. Because much more promising stories are entering the market now than those that were even a year or a year and a half ago. Yes, that was exactly the time when I bought them. And in my opinion, now you can find a use for money. Much more interesting. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, enable notifications, don't miss new videos. And several times a week, we release useful market reviews on our channel. Follow them as well. But for that, enable notifications once again. And we'll see you in the next videos. See you soon.